Hello everyone, it's Bella Malloy here, host of Seek Travel Ride. I'm super excited today because this is the first of a new little series which I am launching for the podcast, and it all generates around the theme of Tell Me About One Day of Your Trip. Fans of the show will know that this is a question which I have recently started asking all my guests, and it's been great hearing them transport us to what it was like on one particular day of their trip. But what I thought would be even better is to pose this to fans of the show. So I did this on our Facebook group and also on Instagram, and I've had a fair few replies, and I've also had a few people send me emails describing one day of their trip. These stories I've received are incredible, and I knew straight away that I had to find a way to share them with you. So what better way than launching this new podcast segment, little bonus episodes for you to look forward to midweek, which transport us to a day of another bike adventurer's trip. Today's episode comes from fan Jacob Ashton. Jacob was undertaking a multi-year bicycle adventure, one which would take him all around the world. And in fact, since ending that trip, Jacob is on another adventure and is currently in Pakistan. But this day that Jacob will describe was from his first tour. He was in Turkey at the time, around Mt Ararat. I won't do a disservice of his trip by telling you what he's going to say. Instead, listen to him take us to one day of his trip.
Hello, Seek Travel Ride listeners. My name is Jacob, and this is my contribution to the Day on Tour miniseries. My Day on Tour comes from my world tour that took place from 2016 to 2020 in a little bit over 100 countries, and the event happens in Turkey. This was late November in Turkey, so pretty cold. I woke up from my camp underneath the road in the culvert, well below freezing, had a descent down towards Mt Ararat, big volcanic mountain in eastern Turkey, and my goal for the day was to ride around that mountain. So get to the road around the mountain. Weather's great, nice views of the mountain. Ends up being a really nice ride, like no traffic at all, going really well. And then not all that far away from the turnoff, the weather starts to degrade, gets kind of cloudy, starts raining. The paved road I was on turns into a gravel track that gets kind of rough. It's all kind of foggy at that point. Foggy weather, and visibility drops a lot. Riding past something like an abandoned playground looks a little bit like a post-apocalyptic movie or something, and then eventually the road dead ends at a very, very tall fence that's topped with razor wire and stuff, and just stop there, pull out my phone, check my maps, and I'm thinking, that looks kind of like a military base. And right about that time, somebody starts yelling at me. Turns out it is a military base, and the Turkish military is not happy to see me. So one of the soldiers runs out with a AK-47 or something and yelling at me, pointing at the ground. So do the logical thing and get down on the ground. Try to look as non-threatening as possible. And I don't speak any Turkish, so just do my best to try to tell them I'm an American tourist and I'm just traveling around. But it doesn't go over very well because they don't speak English. That's one of those situations where you kind of come into like the normal things are fight or flight, but there's also a third option, which is make friends. And that's kind of the path that I took in this case. Luckily, they found somebody who did speak English. And after a very thorough search of my person and all my stuff, basically I did a strip search in front of the base with all the soldiers watching. They had me come in, leave my bike outside, and then just started questioning me, like what are you doing? Why are you here? This is a military base. You shouldn't be out here. The mountain's restricted. And of course I didn't know that. I'd looked it up before. It just looked like it was a road going around the mountain. No mentions of restrictions or military bases or anything like that. And ended up getting questioned for about 6 hours. Over that time, the Turkish military is really, really friendly. They brought me tea and cookies, chocolate, and even brought me lunch. And ended up being like a really friendly procedure in spite of all the tension and being held at gunpoint just a few hours earlier. From that point, they eventually decide I'm not a threat, and looks like they're just going to let me go. And a little bit afraid about being shot in the back as I'm riding away, but ends up they just wanted me to put all my stuff on a truck and take me down to the nearest city. It's about, I think it was 25 miles, about 40 kilometers away. And so hop in that, get on the main road, and they're doing over 120 miles an hour, close to 200 kilometers an hour, going down the highway into the city, passing all the traffic, just flashing lights and horns and driving crazy fast. And then I end up at another secret police office there, Turkish intelligence or something like that, where they question me even more with a bunch of different people. I'm guessing there's like special agents, trained interrogators, that kind of thing. And luckily for them, my story checks out. One of the things that ended up saving me on that was actually my Strava recordings. One of the guys would also use Strava, and he's like, wow, you've been riding 600 miles, like 1,000 kilometers a week, and I don't think you have time to be a spy, so we'll let you go. And they let me go, no problem. And luckily there was a hotel nearby, and had a very nice rest day the next day. But that wraps out the day on tour. Hope everybody enjoyed that. I'm a prospective guest on the podcast, so hopefully be getting to share some more stories later on. See y'all next time.
Wow, could you just imagine if that had happened to you? I really love the notion that in that fight or flight mode, the third option existed, which was make friends. And I just wonder how Jacob had the presence of mind in that situation with guns drawn to try and make friends with these soldiers. I just could not imagine being in that scenario myself. But I also had a little giggle when I heard Jacob talking about eating heartily what they were providing him for lunch. And then if being held by gunpoint wasn't harrowing enough, could you just imagine being in the back of that army truck hurtling down a motorway at almost 200 kilometres an hour? Wow, what a story. Jacob, this certainly is one that you will remember forever. And listeners of the show, you'll probably hear Jacob's voice coming up in a future episode. We have agreed that the stories of that monumental world tour that he went on need to be shared far and wide to this global community. So I'm looking forward to having him on as a guest of the show. Now, if you have your own bicycle adventure story that you would like to have shared as part of this segment, this is how you can get involved. In the show notes, you'll see a link, which is to our Seek Travel Ride SpeakPipe account that allows you to leave me a voice message. All you need to do is hit that link and, as it says, just start talking and tell me about one day of your trip. By no means do you need to have been arrested in a military zone during a multi-year world tour to have your story shared. I'd love to hear how just one day of your trip, it could be about arriving and seeing an amazing scene of natural beauty. Could be that you were battling elements, or even a great interaction with a total stranger in a foreign country. Whatever your story, it is worth sharing, and I would love to hear about it. I really hope you enjoyed this first episode, listening to Jacob's story, and I'm looking forward to the stories that I'm going to be able to share with you as part of this new series. As always, you can also look forward to our longer guest episodes, which are released every week and go into far more details about their amazing journeys. Until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening.